Good. So I assume everyone has been glued to the legislature live feed as they are each and every day at this time. Or maybe not today, you were watching a press conference. So the Manitoba Liberals just denied leave for the paid sick leave bill, which means that it's not going to pass today unless there is all of a sudden some kind of 11th hour revelation on the part of the Liberals that we should help people stay home when they're sick. So my reaction to Liberals denying leave is, huh? What? For months, we have been fighting and pushing for there to be paid sick leave so that people can afford to stay home when they're sick. It's been one of their very consistent asks. The Trudeau government in Ottawa supported it when Jagmeet Singh, the federal NDP leader, brought it forward. Even Mr. Pallister has supported this idea, as I'm sure you're well aware because of his comments today. Effectively, this provincial Liberal Party, the first thing that they want known about them in their pandemic response is to stand in the way of financial assistance to workers. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but let me just say on the topic du jour and the issue at hand, it is very important that we have paid sick leave, and we should have it today. There should be absolute clarity for that person who's, maybe on the fence there, maybe not going to make the right choice. Let's put that paid sick leave into place right now. Let's have Manitobans know with absolute 100% certainty that they are going to be able to apply for this benefit. I think I recognize everyone in the scrum today has heard me expound upon paid sick leave before, so I'm not sure I need to explain the rationale for it, but I'm happy to do so. The other issue that I thought was really important to draw attention to today is this issue of duplex and triplex classrooms. Now, that term may sound a little weird to folks, people may not be familiar, but effectively what school divisions are doing now, starting today, in order to respond to this new education order, is that they're having one teacher supervise 2 classrooms, in some cases even 3 classrooms. In the Louis Riel School Division, this is applying to 214 teachers. That means that you have thousands of kids who only have a teacher for half of the day. To me, that's not good enough in terms of the basic educational needs of these kids, but it's also not good enough when we think about all that learning loss that happened earlier on during the pandemic and the ground that we have to make up. We've been very consistent. We want to see the divisions get the funding from the province so that they can hire more teachers, more educational assistants, so that every kid, including these kids in the K-8 system that I'm talking about right here, they get more of that one-on-one time with the teacher. This is about education. We need to keep kids safe during the pandemic. We got to ensure the quality of the education is there as well. So a few commentary that I wanted to make, but happy to answer any questions that folks have on those or other issues.
Did you have any indication prior to 10 minutes ago that this wasn't going to go forward today?
No, I mean, there was a slight back and forth about how is this going to change the legislative sitting schedule, but those were, not substantive discussions, and there was actually a consensus on how to resolve them.
Is there anything to stop somebody just from applying for it, like CERB?
I think that we want the clarity there. Again, if we think back to earlier on in the summer when we were raising this issue in August and throughout September, there was some confusion coming out of the Premier's office. I don't know if you recall what we were hearing on those days. First they were saying, we do need legislation. Then they said, no, we don't need legislation. Then more recently, once the federal measures passed, they said, okay, we do need to pass the Employment Standards Act. I'm not a labor lawyer, but I am told that the Employment Standards Act does need to be amended to ensure that when somebody applies for this, that their job is protected.
But if your employer says, I'm not going to fire you if you need to take it, you're going to take it. I mean, couldn't you just apply for it?
We want workers to have 100% rock solid certainty that they're not going to be made worse off financially, but also that the job's going to be waiting for them. I mean, we're talking about people's livelihoods here. We're talking about the mortgage or rent payments. We're talking about the ability to provide for your family. There shouldn't be any uncertainty. And so I think that's why it's important that we get this legislation passed here today.
The stern warnings that we heard both from Dr. Newsom and the Premier was strongly been reported at any point in this pandemic. Is this the right approach at this stage of the game?
I saw the Premier's press conference, and the part where he's being very direct with people, and so that's the approach that he's taken. Perhaps I can complement our shared interest here in trying to reach Manitobans and just take maybe a slightly different tone, but still trying to support this public health message that we got to do here. Listen, folks, we're all in this thing together. Maybe the fire and brimstone approach isn't going to work for you, but let me say this. There is a part of us that wants to believe in that better part of our human nature, that wants to abide by a message of hope for the future. If you're feeling frustrated about the lockdown, if you're feeling frustrated about the increasing case counts, this is your opportunity to help turn the page and bring Manitoba closer to the end of the pandemic. Stay home when you're sick. Make sure you get that paid sick leave so that you can do so. And then also wear a mask, and don't be going out and socializing the way that we used to. I know it's a burden, but if we work together, we can get through this thing together. Got to think about the seniors. Got to think about the kids. Got to think about the families who are worried right now. We can support them.
What are your ideas for tackling the outbreak in the care home and in hospitals in Winnipeg?
Well, I think that the government needs to step in at Parkview in particular. This company is clearly failing to manage this home during the pandemic. It was bad enough a week ago when we heard about the cockroaches and the filthy living conditions, but today to hear that there are continuing issues with staffing, that there continue to be problems with the COVID positive patients not being separated from the others, this thing is out of control. The government needs to step in and set things straight. We have been under a state of emergency for 7 months at this point. It doesn't feel like an emergency response that we're getting from the government right now. Let's see that direct action so that we can save these seniors, hopefully ensure that they all get to see the end of the pandemic, that they all get to see 2021.
When it comes to the paid sick leave, is it dead, or are we just
No.
into now more of a protracted process
just-
to get it through?
Right. It means an unnecessary delay. The government still has the normal legislative process available to them, meaning you put it on notice paper tomorrow, then they can introduce it the day after that, and then it can go to debate and royal assent, etc. like that. Reason why we were willing to support this leave request today is let's just get it done. Everyone's been asking for this thing for so long. Why not just make sure that this thing passes? You know what? I've got a ton of complaints with the government about the way they've handled this paid sick leave thing. It seems like it's been a delay, and then all of a sudden, even though it's late, it was a rush job at the same time. But I'm not running out here to list all my grievances and complaints, because at the end of the day, I want to do something to help Manitobans. I want that Manitoba worker who's worried about their rent payment that's coming up, their hydro payment, to know that they're still going to get paid whether or not they have to self-isolate, right? And I think real leadership today would be, let's just get together and do one positive thing today. Earn our paychecks as legislators and leave Manitoba a tiny little bit better than we found it this morning.